Okay, we're calling this
Everything you
meeting
get
of
from
the
Arkansas.
Monuments and Ceremonies Commission of the Town of Darien to order at 3:30. It is April 9th, and we do have a quorum. We have 8 commission members here. We also have 2 guests. We have 3 guests. We have representative, or actually the chairman of the Town 2020 Subcommittee. We have also the vice chairman of the Cemetery Committee, which is Tracy Root. We have Ellen Miller over here. And we also have Lucy Berry, who's the chair of the Veterans Sign Committee. So we will be getting reports from all of them. We'll also be talking a little bit about budget later on, some things that have happened so that we're all on the same page as far as how that went. Let's take a look at the minutes from March 12th, 2019 meeting, and we'll get those accepted as soon as possible.
Does everybody have a copy?
Everybody have one of these?
Tracy, do you have a copy?
It's a light one today. We tried to save paper.
Good.
We
Yes.
did both sides.
Alan, do you have a?
Yeah.
No, but big side, yes.
Here, you get an extra.
Open it.
Yeah.
Here, here's one. Here, take one. Okay, so do I get a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the March 12th meeting?
Okay.
The only change, by the way, was a very, very small change, and that was, during that meeting, we thought the Cemetery Committee and the Masons were going to meet at 9, so we indicated 9, but it's actually going to be 10 on the 20th. So that's done, okay? That's not a big deal. They've corrected it on the website and anything that went out. So if we got a motion for that, Raleigh, thank you. And a second, Alan, and any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anybody abstaining? Done. Okay, we accepted the minutes. I'm going to jump down to the 2020 Subcommittee report on its progress so that we can do Alan right away. This is Alan Miller, who's one of the board members over at Darien Historical Society, and he has taken on the role of the chairman of the 2020 Subcommittee, and he's going to fill us in on where they are at this point.
So we've had 2 meetings already, 2 official meetings. We've got an official subcommittee. There's 13 people on the subcommittee, official members. And we tried to get a good array of people, organizations in the town. So we've got Jamie Stevenson is, of course, a member of the subcommittee. The Historical Society, we've got 4 people from the Historical Society there. We've got somebody from the Darien Library, Mallory Rentz is a member. A couple of people from Mather House, Susan Cater from the Chamber of Commerce. We got Jamie from Parks and Recs, Susan from the Foundation, Education by Sarah Kina, and Jim Long and Ken, the ex officio members for MNC, for Monuments and Ceremonies. In addition to the 13 members, we've got about 5 volunteers who aren't members, but they're willing to volunteer. They can't commit to all the meetings and everything, but they'd like to volunteer as well. So somebody from the Masonic Lodge and from Rotary, from the DAR, which was good. And these people are broken up. I've broken them up to about 5 or 6 teams, subcommittees of the subcommittee. Youth and education, the opening ceremony, communication. We're doing some historical markers around the town. We're doing outreach to businesses and nonprofits. We're going to do a time capsule, which is a lot of fun, especially getting the kids involved in the time capsule. And there's going to be a closing ceremony as well. So we're thinking of having all the festivities run from March to June. March will have an opening ceremony at the Thaddeus Bell gravesite. The DAR is going to have, they've already do have a marker that the Bell family have agreed they can place on the grave or by the grave. We're also going to put one of our historical markers, not at the grave, but at the grave site or at the cemetery, kind of explaining the importance of Thaddeus Bell. There'll probably be a ringing of the bells of the houses of worship. That was done 50 years ago at our 150th ceremony. There's going to be an opening exhibition at the Historical Society, so that all happens through March. And then through April and May, and then into June. June will be the final closing ceremony. That's the day when Darien, June 12th is the day when Darien was officially incorporated has its own town. It used to be part of Stanford. So that's on a Friday, June 12th. There'll be a ceremony on June 12th, an anniversary day ceremony. There'll be speeches. We'd like to do the time capsule then. Bury the time capsule. And then on Saturday, we're going to be part of the Weed Beach annual party. So there'll be events between the March and June timeframe, but that's the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony. So some of the other projects we have going is possibly within a week we're going to have a logo design. The logo was done pro bono by an advertising agency. And also there was a competition, members of the high school, there were four students of the high school competed. And what we decided, they submitted their projects for the logo. And what we decided to do, we wanted a little more professional, so we actually got the ad agency. They made the presentation to the advertising agency, and the advertising agency actually really kind of designed it, but they incorporated a lot of the kids. The kids made pitches to the ad agency. It was really cool. So that should be approved. Once that's approved, we're doing press releases in all the local newspapers and magazines. We're going to do an EDDM, which is every door direct mail. So that'll have a calendar of events. Susan, the Chamber of Commerce, is kind of heading that up. There'll be 3 or 4 of those throughout, starting in the summer and all the way to next June. And remind people kind of a postcard format exactly what's coming down. Then in the Parks and Rec magazine, we're going to have flyers in there about the events. Then we're going to have a website I got with Linda here, and on the actual town website, we're going to have a link with all the events, all the formal events. Those will be only nonprofits and town organizations. It won't be anything commercial. Commercial will be done with those postcard mailings. And there'll also be the Chamber of Commerce's, some of their publications that are going to have stuff. We're going to have an exhibition in March at the Historical Society. Ken is actually writing a book on 1820. So that'll be published. Thank you very much, Ken. And we're also republishing The Story of Darien, Connecticut, which is a great book. If you don't have it, you can buy it now. We don't have that many copies left. You can get it at Barrett's or at the Historical Society. We're republishing it. So that should be good. And we're going to do about 12 historical markers. We're also planning on doing about 12 historical markers throughout the town. Some of them are ones at the landing, ones at the Congressional Church, the Roden River Graveyard. There was a battle at Post Road, which is right by.
You have to leave one door.
Have to leave one open. Yeah.
Right by the Henley School, outside at Post Road and Norotan. There was a small skirmish. A couple of patriots got killed.
Right.
And so
Over by the White Bridge?
No, this is on
by Henley
Post
School.
Road.
Okay.
It's a different one. There was actually a skirmish there too, but a couple of patriots were killed. Soldiers came in and tried to get some of their cattle, I guess.
What a record.
It's not neat that the people got killed, it's just neat that there's another skirmish.
In any event, it was the Battle of Post Road. So, and it's a very heavily trafficked area. You've got the school there. They do the spring festival there. Every year the carnival is there. Norotan Fire Department is June, has their fundraiser there. It'll be so cool to have a marker there exactly what happened. So there'll be about 12 of these, and Ken actually selected most of the sites. So that's that. There's a whale boat that the Historical Society, that's not really part of 1820, it's really part of the Historical Society, but we're going to be featuring that in some of our events.
Okay.
And certainly it will be done for the Memorial Day Parade, but we'll also have it as part of the Beach Festival.
Great.
As part of their closing ceremony. So that's about it. I'm excited about the time capsule. That was just-
Al, we had at one time, I know, we had been talking about pole banners and stuff in the street.
Yes, that's right, yeah. We're gonna do, as soon as the logo, actually, that's coming very quickly. As soon as the logo is designed, which should be hopefully by the end of this month, we're gonna have some banners.
Because
I could have some
that's
help.
the
I
only
don't
thing
know.
that's the only thing that talks to people from out of town.
Right.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
most of the
So
other
I'm not
stuff is-
sure, actually, I need some help on that. I'm not sure where we can place these banners. There's the downtown, but also the Norotan Shopping Center. There's Goodwife Shopping Center. There's Palmer's up there. Are those sites where we can have banners? And this must have been done in the past,
Over by the
right?
thruway, usually,
By the
somebody,
thruway?
yeah,
But
they put one up.
Is
you know,
there
you
some official,
You're talking about banners that goes across the street?
yeah,
Or-
across the street or hanging from
Hanging from-
Hanging
lampposts?
from
Yeah, vertically.
poles,
from-
okay.
Vertically from.
So we have
What's
certain
been done
poles in the
before?
town already, right, that have the brackets for the flags, right?
I don't know.
Okay,
Yes, I guess
we
so.
have those. So if they are flags or something like can be attached to those brackets, that's one thing, okay? Because those are
I think we're talking about drops, I think.
drops.
Yes,
Drops,
absolutely.
okay, I don't know how that can be modified. The person that was involved with that was David Hawes, and he might be the one to contact on that, because he's a local realtor, but he had a hand in a lot of the flags, doing with the flags and the other things that we put out on the main drag in the street, all the way up to Norotan Heights. So I would
HAAS.
check with him,
But it's-
HAWES.
I mean,
Yeah.
as of now, we don't know what it looks like, or we don't know anything like
Right.
that. So
Right.
a little early as
Yeah.
far
I
as.
actually think your first step is probably Department of Public Works with
Yeah.
Ed Gentile.
Yeah, yeah, DPW would be good to start too, maybe because they're, and then whoever maintains them in town.
The brackets, the flag
That was
brackets
Dave
and
Gentile.
Ed.
Ed Gentile.
and the hanging baskets are
Right.
funded by the Beautification Commission, but
Right.
Parks and Rec actually maintains.
Does the
them.
maintaining of them?
So
Right, so
you might
cool.
want to check with them
So,
also.
yeah,
Okay, good, yeah. So the logo should be done hopefully this month, and
Great.
then we're gonna do the press release and then get the banners up.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it does a lot of cool stuff. I still got a couple of spots to fill. One is social media. If anybody knows anybody who wants to volunteer on social media. All us old people are like.
a lot of this stuff today is driven to that.
What's that?
Absolutely, that's a
Yeah,
big
it's
deal.
just
We got all the
very- yeah.
publicity, I think, all worked out, but social
Right.
media.
Gonna get a
Still
high
looking for
school
people.
student.
Might be a good Scout
Exactly, yeah.
Eagle project.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it could be.
Mallory's using somebody for the library, and she said maybe they can volunteer, they can help us out. So
Cool.
Okay,
I
so
may get a name from her.
That's
does
great.
anybody have any questions for the 2020 committee? Okay, the funding, okay, just so we talk about funding for a few seconds here, because we're going to get into that in a couple of different subcommittees here. I put in $5,000 for you,
What?
but that's not available until after July 1st this year, so the fiscal year goes to the 30th. So but at that point, you'll be able to access those funds, all right? And there's a mechanism for doing it. It's not that hard to go into the finance office and, you put in your bills and such and everything. So that was earmarked for you. 5,000 was put in. My understanding from a letter that I got from Jen today, Jen Trineski, was that $5,000 is still sitting there, or is still in the budget. This is not the case with some other funds that we asked for, so you should be very happy. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that, about the other groups in a second here. Normally we get, this is an odd thing because it's a celebration that takes place over 2 years. So you've got the $5,000, which is supposed to be seed money, but you've got to understand, if you've put in for money for the next year, it doesn't get available until 2020, July 1st, okay?
Yeah,
So
till after it's
something's
over.
going to have to
Yes.
be worked out there, all right, with the town, as far as that goes. I do not know if the town has put in under celebrations or anything of that nature, any other money, but I mean, certainly didn't think $5,000 was going to pay for this whole deal, because it's not going to. We, in the actual monuments and ceremonies, have a small budget. It usually covers maintenance, and it also can cover some commemorative stuff and some work like that, but that was cut this year. I put in for X amount of dollars, $5,000 and change, and I ended up getting $3,750. All right, they cut it back. And the reason they cut it back, it was explained to me today, was that the town administrator felt that we hadn't used the money in the past. Well, this year, the years coming up is when we're gonna need the money, so they had to find a place to cut, and that's where
Let
they
that
cut.
be a lesson to us.
Yeah, that we have to spend it all.
We have to
And I
have
will-
dinners or
and I will
something.
speak-
That's the military.
When we get into the cemetery subcommittee, I'll speak a little bit more about that.
Yes.
But rest assured, you have 5,000 that's in that budget. We're expecting that to go through. And that $5,000 will be available to you after July 1st. We may have some funds in our budget. It'll be small, under $1,000 and such, that we may be able to tap into. I asked Sue Ann to check with the powers that be today, and she did. And I got this back from Selena in finance. And we had put in $2,500 for celebrations and community grants and things of that nature. And we had only spent, up to this point, 362 of that. So we do have some money left over. However, so we've got $2,138 left, which has to be spent by July 30th, otherwise it goes the way to Buffalo. So what's going to happen with that is we have several expenses that are going to come due in regard to the parade, all right, and in regard to the ceremony. Basically, in regard to the ceremony in the cemetery, we have to pay for the speaker system to be set up and some flowers and such. And we also want to, out of this particular celebrations and community grants, we had said to the subcommittee on signs that we would pay for the first sign. So that's got to come out of that also. So we will take care of that today. Whatever's left in that account afterwards, after May 30th, or after May 27th, whatever's left in that account, we can then decide to use at the June meeting, all right? And we will spend it because they're going to need it. Other groups are going to need it, all right? Interesting? Okay, so
Just
that's,
to that point though,
Yeah.
since we're gonna be having that meeting in June, 2 weeks before the money has to be spent,
right,
have your hit list ready for us.
on May, in May, because the May meeting is the 14th, I believe, Sharon? I'm not sure, I think it's a funky time this time. The May meeting, I think, is the 14th. And if you have something to us before that, we can vote on it at that meeting, and we'll look at all of our bills. We'll know what our bills are going to be at that point to tie up Memorial Day. So if we have money left over, we can possibly give you some money from there. All right? So that's,
Dave, question on this, particularly in terms of the 2020. There are certain things such as these interpretive panels that we're talking about for the
Right.
historical sites and whatever, that we've been discussing the idea of getting business sponsors.
right.
How does that work in terms of do they give the money
14.
to the town, or do they pay the bill, or how does it work?
You can check with the town administrator on that and the people in finance, like Jen Trineski. But it's been done before.
Yeah.
We've done it before, for instance, when we raised money for the Veteran Circle out here and such. It just goes into an account, they earmark it. Or it
We
comes in
ran
that
that
way.
through, we ran that through VFW or here, and they were both tax deductible.
Right, exactly.
So is the 2020 committee set up as a charitable organization?
No, but
We're
it's,
part of the town.
Well, it's part of it.
You're
We're
just
running it
part-
as
part of
the town.
us.
So same
It's
thing
a
we did with-
subcommittee to this
Yeah,
committee, actually.
that's the same thing we did with the veterans, the same thing we did with the cemetery. They're all, it's okay to do it the way we're doing it.
Because I know the business people are going to ask that
Right.
straight away.
that's why I asked it. Just, you know.
Or private individuals too.
Yeah.
Well, this group, our charter empowers us to accept donations. We have it written in.
But in terms of getting a,
Tax deductible.
no, on a sponsorship line on the piece itself of that.
Well, if it came up to a vote here,
Yeah.
I'd vote against it,
Well,
just so you know.
You're gonna,
You
you're
don't want it
gonna,
commercial.
you're gonna have to deal with that as it comes
But
up. As it
again,
comes up.
you want it to get done,
Right.
so we
Well,
will
if-
need money.
If
either
you gave
from-
if you gave the money and it said, you know, gift of Terry Gaffney, that wouldn't be awful. So if,
I just think We've seen enough of that in the last 40 years. I don't think we should continue it.
Yeah, so we have had these discussions, and to do it, it's gonna cost money, obviously. So
Right.
either it has to come from the town or corporate sponsorships, or a combination of both. We're also thinking if it has to come from a corporate sponsorship, maybe not to have it on the actual, have it a little bit away, you know what I mean? So
Could
so
be
you're looking at the
acknowledged
marker and
someplace other than
everything.
on a permanent marker.
They
Exactly.
could be acknowledged, well, you can acknowledge them with your publicity, you can
Yeah,
acknowledge
right.
them when you
Other
place that,
ways,
when you
so-
place that particular piece, you can acknowledge them in the newspapers and such, in every piece of media that we have going around, they're gonna get all that media
Put it with a little
coverage.
tiny plate on one of the stanchion holding it up, for that matter. I mean, that kind of would be.
But I think that's something we can
Yeah.
Okay,
suss
all
out.
right, that's
at
what I
some
want to
point.
bring it up to.
Yeah,
so we
that's,
know
that's
what-
fine, that's a good thing to keep in our minds to begin with.
Act like
Is there anything else on that? I,
because of the way the
Yeah.
tax laws are written.
okay, so thank you very much, Alan and Ken, and all the work you guys are doing in your subcommittee. I think it's great that you're moving along the way you are. When you're ready to spend some money, after July 1st, you can tap into that 5,000. Prior to that, if there's something that you need that we might be able to fund for you, please, let us know by the next meeting, which is April
Something you
14th, May
can,
14th.
something you can pay in advance.
Okay, so, if there are no other questions on the 2020, let's move on to the Veterans Plaque Subcommittee report, okay? And what I need to know from you is a number that we can, Lucy, is a number that we can use, that we can vote on here, so that we can cover the first sign, which we said we would do many months ago. The first
Okay.
stuff. So, go ahead.
Thank you. I confirmed with the company that makes the signs for the town of Darien that it would be $60 per sign. So if there are 2 entrances to a street and we want to have a sign at each entrance, that would be 2 signs. So I think
120 for that?
sometimes if it's a cul-de-sac, there'll only be 1 sign, sometimes there'll be 2.
Okay.
So $60 per sign, and then I added in $25 for the framing and writing and printing of a proclamation, but that's not per sign, that's per event.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then, I'm sorry, it's still a little bit unknown. I've been playing telephone tag to find out if we in fact do have to pay for any kind of police presence. I've had conflicting reports, so as of now, I just have that it's $85 for 1 sign, plus $60 for other additional signage.
This is for the police presence?
Yeah, I don't have that figure to add
Okay.
in, so I'm sorry.
So, run that through again. So it's $60 a sign, it's at $120 for the 2 signs, $25 for the other, and the $85 is what?
That's the
Oh, that's-
addition of the
No, that's
60.
that's the total.
Right.
Okay, all right, so you've got 120 plus 85, 205, or thereabouts, right? Then you've got to cover,
No,
No.
no,
No.
120 plus
What?
25.
oh,
What?
am I losing?
it's
145.
145,
145 total.
without any kind of paying for police presence, because
Okay.
I don't know that number.
All right,
What
145
they
is.
indicated was that there is a charge, but even though they couldn't
Guaranteed.
confirm it, they said it would be highly probable that one or more of the officers would volunteer. their
Yeah,
time.
they don't think that we need to factor that in.
So you need how much from us? For
Well,
this?
if the sign we do has 2 signs, which I think it will, and $25, I need $145.
145. So we need a motion on the table to pay for that?
I would, before we make that motion, let's figure in the fudge factor and say with unknown expenses, let's say up to $240, but everything will be verified with an invoice, because if we pass it at 145 and it turns out to be 146,
Right.
we
No,
have a problem.
we can go like 250. We can say, we can put it in for 250.
I think that's safe.
And that would,
Yeah.
that covers, doesn't mean we have to spend it,
Right.
but
Right.
that covers then at least, a half hour worth of police officer time or whatever it happens to be, if you have to have a police officer on a street corner.
I'm more
whatever it happens
comfortable
to
with
be.
that. Mhm.
So let's make a motion, someone for 250 for this
I
first
make a
sign.
motion that we allocate up to $250 for the for the installation of the veteran wartime street sign and all the additional paraphernalia, the plaque, et cetera, that
Whatever.
will go along with it.
The whole
And I
package.
second it.
Okay, seconded by Sharon. Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay, that's carried, that's good. So we said we were gonna do that, and we did do that, takes care of that. We're not gonna get into the specifics of anything else at this point. We already have other applications coming in. There has been a veteran selected, but we are gonna hold that in abeyance until it actually happens, because it is, we're gonna keep the element of surprise. All right? Lucy, do you have anything else?
No, thank you. I'm just very, very excited about this.
I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled that, you and Sharon and Alan and whoever else you had working with it, okay, Terry or whoever.
Yeah, Terry.
All you guys did yeoman work on this and got it done in, quick time. when you
Lucy's
realize-
driving the bus, though.
That's okay, that's okay, I fully expected she would be.
Do you
All right.
have, you have a time frame you figure?
Yes,
Memorial Day?
yes, definitely for Memorial Day.
Oh, good,
Well, a weekend.
Well, for the
Yeah,
weekend.
that's what I mean.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a good write-up in Dairy Neighbors, I think.
Yeah, people have mentioned it to me, but I haven't seen a copy. Maybe if you have one at home, you can send it in with
Give it to
Dorothy.
Dorothy.
Okay, so that's taken care of. Anything else on the Veterans Subcommittee? No. Next, I'd like to jump to, let's see, the Earth Day. Earth Day time correction at 10 a.m., that's a quickie. All right, it was 9, it's 10. Anybody who's interested in helping on an Earth Day, which is the day before Easter, unfortunately, that's the way it goes, meet at 10 o'clock at 354 Post Road, which is the Masonic Lodge, Masonic Club of Darien, and the Cemetery Subcommittee plus the Masonic Club of Darien are working together, and Ivanhoe Lodge are working together on this. There will be refreshments, a brief orientation, and then you'll be sent out to do work on one or more cemeteries that they have identified. There is a flyer here that will be going out to the newspapers and such. You might want to take a look at it if anybody hasn't seen it. Very nicely designed by Sharon Kells, I believe, and tells it all right there. That's working with closely over at the Masonic Lodge is Mark Lindsay. Fantastic work that he's been doing. He had been taking care of that one cemetery over there, the base cemetery, by himself for years, and now the cemetery committee has now assisted in helping with that. So anybody in town that's interested, anybody in the commission that's interested, and has time that Saturday morning to go over, 10 o'clock meeting, then they'll disperse, they'll do some work, they'll pile the stuff by the road, town public works employees will come by the next week and pick them up. There's a lot of deadfalls and a lot of branches down, and a lot of stuff to be moved, and a lot of cemeteries. And in order for us to maintain our look so that in 2020, when we show off the town, it looks really, really good. One of the things you want to maintain is our cemeteries, and this is all part of the game to do that. If you take a look at the bottom of your agenda for Monuments and Ceremonies Commission, you notice I put 2 quotes on there. And these quotes, I think, are pointed. Show me your cemeteries, and I will tell you what kind of people you have. Benjamin Franklin. Show me the manner in which a nation or a community cares for its dead, and I will measure with mathematical exactness the tender sympathies of its people, their respect for the laws of the land, and their loyalty to high ideals. William E. Gladstone. So that stuff, that's heavy-duty stuff there, folks. We have to put on a good face for the world here, and one of the ways of doing it is to make sure that your reverence for the dead is shown. So thank you very much, Tracy, for putting together that Earth Day. Do you have anything else on the Earth Day stuff?
No, just I put extra flyers there if anybody has another association that you have meetings with. If
Right.
you don't mind sharing it with them, then
Fantastic.
that would be great.
Good deal. All right, so anybody at the end wants to take one and put it someplace, be our guest. Quickly want to talk a little bit about cemetery and cemetery budget before we jump into the parade and the cemetery ceremony. Okay, so I put in $30,500 to the town for a cemetery budget this year, and all the justification was all written down and everything else, what we're trying to do. And again, we're trying to put a good face on the town and make it look good, and a lot of these cemeteries have been neglected for years. So we do need to do some work with them. And the work that's been done the last few years has been funded semi by the town and also by individuals who have put forth their own dollars and cents. And this, of course, has to be something that's taken over by the town more fully. It can't be individuals reaching into their pocket to fund this to the tune of thousands of dollars. So I did put in $30,500. The entire amount was removed from the budget, so there was nothing in place except they did find an account which was earmarked for I don't know exactly what for, but earmarked for cleanup in certain cemeteries. I don't know whether it was a specific cemetery or not. We have to get to the bottom of it and find a little more. That account is only $9,100. Okay, we'll have access to that after the budget passes. As of this point right now, the cemetery committee has spent their funds from last year. So nothing can be done until we get more money to them. The $9,000 is not going to be enough to maintain and to keep our momentum moving forward. We really need much more than that.
Was that
So-
not a donor-directed private bequest?
Yeah, this was you're talking about the $9,000? Apparently there's several of these. There's not just one of these. There's several of these accounts that the town has discovered and such. And this is just one of them. They felt that this one could be directed towards the cemetery commission, which we're appreciative of, okay? I know they're petty stuff, but it's just not enough. I mean, that's just my opinion, okay? And I know what it takes to do these things, and I know the hard work that's put into it.
Well, it's a $21,000 cut, isn't it?
It's a $21,000 cut.
Well, it's a
so
big cut.
It's a big cut, so it's 2/3 is gone. So with that in mind, all right, there's nothing we can do about that right at this moment, but with that in mind, I asked Sue Ann to check into our finances, and one of the things she checked was we have two different budget categories under monuments and ceremonies. One is for celebrations and commemorations. That's the money we use to put on the ceremony in the cemetery. The other one is for maintenance and repair. And the maintenance and repair budget, I put in $4,250 this year. So we have not touched that maintenance and repair budget. So what I'm saying to you as a group, and also to Tracy as the vice chair of the cemetery committee, maintenance and repair of monuments and structures and things of that nature that fall under our purview, all right, it would seem to me that this money could be tapped for use in the cemetery. The prior year, we used a small amount, a small fraction of what we put in. Now we've got this money here. I would suggest that a conversation be held between the cemetery committee and the financial office, the town administrator's office, and tell them what you want to do, and tell them we've given you the okay, or I've given you the okay to access this money to supplement what you don't have, okay? And I'll only cover for this year, and of course, once again, it's another one of those things where it has to be spent this year, it has to be spent by June 30th, it doesn't carry over. So the printout that I got here says we have $4,250 in there, we haven't touched it. My suggestion is to have that conversation, okay? So I'm delivering that to you, and then I say, do what you can do with it. We're not going to need it anywhere else. It's specifically earmarked for maintenance and repair. This is what we do when we go into a cemetery. We're maintaining and repairing. You have the Slauson Cemetery, which has our founding father there, Thaddeus Bell, and this tombstone next to his is his wife, which is laying flat on the ground. That has to be repaired for openers. Okay?
And these are town-owned, that's a town-owned cemetery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Town
All of them are town-owned,
All of
aren't
them
they?
are.
Why doesn't Jamie step up?
I don't know.
I don't know that they're town-owned.
Some
The
are.
No,
town-
there's
Some
a,
are.
there's a
The town is
statute that
responsible-
says.
They're responsible for them. but
Well, they
not
have,
for
the town
maintenance.
has taken the responsibility
Right.
for them.
Right.
Yes.
We
So
should
that-
have
so what
taken
I'm saying is that the
responsibility.
money in that budget is going into a town
Right.
property.
So I think...
In last year's budget, wasn't there money in the cemetery fund, though, from a grant? Wasn't there
I
a
think
grant
It's
from
a
the state?
$2,000 grant from the
Yeah.
state that is applied for each year, but
Yeah.
that's not enough, obviously. to
Obviously
cover
not,
it.
but did we get that again?
We got it last year. I don't know about this coming year. I don't know what the,
I just think that, with 2020 coming up and everything else, you want to look spiffy. And
There's a huge branch in Slauson
Yeah.
down, I looked the other
Right,
day.
the tree came down, that big
I
branch,
know.
that tree came down.
The
So
other,
anyway,
the only other one
yeah.
that's come up for repair or possibly is at the old town hall. What is that?
Flagpole?
The flagpole. And I know they're doing construction there, so probably not gonna need the money
The flagpole's
until
gone.
after.
It's gone.
That flagpole's been,
Are we gonna,
that flagpole's been removed.
It's gone.
It's,
And it has
out
been
of
taken
the-
on by a local group,
okay?
and they have already removed it. They removed it this week, because if you go there now, where that used to be is a big mound of dirt.
Right.
All right, so they had to get it out of there, so a local contractor and people from Spring Grove took it, and it is now in Spring Grove,
Okay.
okay? But it has to be erected and such and everything else.
And they're gonna take care of that. I just
Yes.
wanna be sure that there's
Yeah,
not
oh,
gonna
yeah.
all of a sudden, no, we do
Yeah,
have this
I had not
expense.
heard from from Joe Warren or anybody else that they were looking for any funds from us.
Okay,
No.
good.
If
You know,
if
we
they are,
had
they'll have to wait till next
deeded
year.
access to that
I know,
from the town.
yeah.
I mean, for the town.
Have we invited the Board of Selectmen to walk through the cemetery with Tracy and to see all the people that are there and the veterans? Do they have any interest in
I don't know what
that?
the cemetery subcommittee has done. I have not invited them, no. But they should. You know, we're talking about founding fathers of the town that are in these old cemeteries, especially when you go to the Roten River Graveyard, or you go up to Bates, which is behind the Masonic Lodge and stuff. You're talking about Whitney's and Scribner's and going back to all the beginnings of this town. So it is
Shame.
amazing.
I thought when a cemetery was abandoned, the town,
Right. When
Had
it's
the
abandoned, it falls-
responsibility to take it
falls the
over.
responsibility of the
I
municipality.
think that
it's
has the
in.
right, I think it has the right to. I don't think that
No,
it
if-
automatically goes to it.
If there's a veteran in the cemetery, the town
yes.
is mandated by the state to maintain.
There's a state statute.
Oh,
It's
really?
maintained at a certain level.
If there's a
Yes.
veteran buried in the
Yeah,
cemetery.
and all of ours have met veterans in them. We have two, for instance, Bates behind the Masonic Lodge, there's 2 Civil War veterans in there, there's a bunch of Revolutionary War veterans in there. And same thing holds true for down around, for the Roten River, and several others. Slauson's got a Medal of Honor winner.
It's a shame. It really is a shame. It doesn't say much for the town. Really doesn't.
This is what I'm trying to say here, you know?
We have a chance, and I'm going in to be reviewed again. That happens every 10 minutes, but, and then they move the dates. But when you go up and you say why, and they ask you, why do you want to be in this commission? And one of the simple things that I've thought about is, and it has to do with Tracy, I've already mentioned it down the hallway, that I said, it really is something, and we're going to be appearing before the commission, whatever they are. And they'll say, you know, it's a good idea. Why don't you go? We can provide you a list and a leader to run a little thing down there, to go see all the people down there.
Yeah, some Saturday, they should take a walk.
Yeah, it's a nice day to take a walk,
Yeah.
even if it's raining and snowing.
Really?
Some of them
Which you
need
could very well
to
do this year.
No, I said, well,
Went
when I
down.
was reviewed the last time too, I mentioned it because it was when Tracy
Tracy came in.
and Sharon were working so hard on their own with their own money.
That's right.
But obviously, they didn't hear that.
It
They
didn't
hear
hit
it.
home.
But
So it's
even
time-
Norwalk spends money.
Oh my gosh, their
on it.
cemetery on Rowayton Avenue, where near Flax Hill, that is immaculate, always.
Yeah.
And with
That's David
flags all
Westmoreland,
summer.
and they give him whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's terrible.
There's another thing that's going
Historical
on.
Commission.
In for the cemetery people, in New Canaan. And apparently New Canaan has taken it upon itself that if it wasn't kept, they're selling it off to developers, the land.
Well, like the land where the
And there's a
paupers were buried
kerfuffle
by
about it.
Giovanni's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do they keep the ceremony? Do they inter the,
Who knows what happens? It disappears into the great unknown. But in fact, there's a fellow who came to me and asked me about it. He says, "What, did you have any rules against that?" And I said, "Certainly. You know, the state can't come along and say, gee, your front yard really doesn't look good, and we're going to take it over and put a developer in there." And that's what they've done.
The dead have no rights.
Neither do the citizens, I guess, too, unless they're developers, you know, so it's a tricky area, but I think anytime we on the commission can mention politely that these things are going on for the betterment of the town of Darien and its reputation, especially all the stuff that you've got coming up.
But it raises the taxes.
Yeah, well, that's right, it raises
If
the
they,
taxes.
heaven forbid, one of them
Nobody can
should come
afford
out
the
and volunteer
taxes.
for a couple of hours.
Yeah,
Well,
that
well,
would-
taxes.
There's a number of cemeteries that we were going to put historical markers on, so if somebody has a list of veterans and notables, Tracy, can you mail it to me, and that'd be good, because we're going to have a little ceremony when we do the marker.
There was actually a list that was made by, at one point, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, there was a group from Stanford that was a veterans committee that was made up of all these different veterans organizations. And they sent a letter to the town. And the letter to the town listed 147 veterans that were in certain cemeteries that they felt were neglected. Okay? And I have a copy of that letter someplace. I think we
Oh, I
did.
bet if we walked around, they're still neglected.
Yeah. So anyway, it was very interesting, though. They were actually taking us to task from Stanford. That was 40 years ago. We don't want that to we don't want that to repeat itself. But
Can I
yes,
just
we can
interject?
get you some names on that. Yes.
In the Norotan River graveyard.
Right.
One of the things that just came to my mind, but we've already mentioned that we've focused on cleaning these up.
Right.
And our goal is obviously to get them to a maintenance point, which ideally then the money would not be nearly as great.
Right.
But also to start restoring the headstones that, as we know, have been buried and broken and everything. So that has been one of our goals, and
Right.
we've just been so overwhelmed just in the amount of work that we've taken on, which happily, but that's why we haven't really gotten to the point where we've been able to start repairing the headstones and the monuments. But in Norotan, for example, there's at least 18 Revolutionary War veterans, and their stones are missing. So I don't know if it's something, we need to kind of think about a way to kind of replace those without, disrespecting anybody or.
Could we just do one big monument with their names on if we don't know where they're buried? In the cemetery, where they're buried in that cemetery?
It could be done it could be done another way. It could be done on an interpretive piece that's placed at the head of it that mentions all these people. And that's something we had thought about when we first started working on the Road River Graveyard, was that we wanted to put interpretive signs there. And you had mentioned in the 2020, and this when we come around these signs, and just to go on a side here, there was a Boy Scout named Holm Reeser in town. He's the one that was responsible for placing a sign down by the boat ramp that had to do with the shellfish beds. And I think I sent you pictures of it. And that fellow that does that did that sign for him, and it's all metal, okay, and it's laminated on the top, is a local product, a local person, has a signage company. And I think I gave you the information.
email.
I also have phone numbers for him, if you need. I have the actual phone numbers for that fellow. But this is something that, since the 2020 wants to do some of these things also, maybe a collaboration, so that one of the places that you guys do might be the oldest cemetery in town, which is the Norotan River Graveyard, and that could use some, so you may not be able to replace.
That is one of the lists that we have for
Right.
markers.
Yeah, we may not be able to replace the actual headstones, but we may be able to put an interpretive piece in there that does mention who these people are. I'm going to move along because we have some other things to discuss here, but, and I'm sure we're going to be revisiting this. But thank you, Tracy, and Sharon Kells, and your group, and the fellows that work for you. Fantastic job. Let's get into Memorial Day Parade Subcommittee progress and preparations. And also the Memorial Day Cemetery Ceremony and such. I'll start off with the parade, Terry. We're at the end of our time here. We'll go through whatever you want to bring to our attention at this point. Terry has taken the parade bull by the horns and is really riding it, I'm telling you. He's going the full 8 seconds already and then some. Go for it.
All right, so we sent out 109 invitations.
Did we get one?
No. Oh, yes, I did it first, yes, first day.
Yeah, so far, we have 53 organizations who said yes. We've had 4 non-responders that I assume will say yes, because they're important cogs. They just haven't hit us back yet. There are 25 additional non-responders that we're still waiting on. 18 people, 18 organizations have said no, and 9 organizations that have been on the list have been axed. They're either no longer active and/or no longer interested. Among the missing, Ron Heinwald in the senior center has apparently been very active for a number of years and has
Yeah, I
had
don't know
antique cars.
what happened with
But
that.
he's moved, and his phone has been cut off, and everything says U.S. mail only. So I don't know how to find him. I've reached out to Ray Slavin, who knows him, but I haven't heard back, but he's one I'm chasing. And for those who may not know, Don Cabot, who's been the bagpiper in the parade,
Yeah.
passed away last week. Did we at any point fund any of that cost for bagpiping?
No, we did not. We used to use some of our money that we had in our first category that we discussed today to hire a band at one point.
Yeah.
And we had a band that came for about 5 or 6 years, and then eventually they just didn't show up anymore. So we didn't use the money. It's very tough to get bands and such like that on Memorial Day because everybody in the state is doing Memorial Day at the same time, Saturday and Sunday, and bands are committed years in advance.
Plus, they're expensive.
Yeah, and plus they're very expensive.
couldn't
I had a band that contacted me.
I did too, from
And-
Greenwich, but
And, you know, again, I don't know if that's something we want to entertain.
was it a bagpipe band?
No, they're a brass band, 16-piece brass band. I listened to the tapes, they're pretty good. They indicated they would like to charge $1,200. I have a suspicion they would be negotiable, if that's
Do-
something.
do
you
they
want to
march or
entertain.
ride?
They march,
Well, they actually march, huh?
yeah.
I don't know anything about them, but see, that would be money, a place where money would go to out of our
I mean,
account.
if you're interested, I'll send a link out to everybody to take a look at.
Where are they from, Jerry?
New York.
I know, but I don't see anything.
I'm chasing down several antique car owners because several of the people who traditionally have driven in the parade are not going to be around this year. So if anybody has any friends or associates with antique cars, I'm looking to get more antique cars in.
Did you get that man with the Mustang last year?
I'm chasing him among others.
Oh, okay.
How about Tom Geary and his truck?
Hey, Sharon.
I'm chasing, so. This year's parade, like last year's, will be live stream broadcast and be available on YouTube through the Darien Foundation, their media contact. So I've been asking people I'm telling people that we're going to be very aware of privacy rights, especially when it comes to children. But if there are any issues of note they want us to broadcast, I've asked people for that. Those who may not be aware, the YMCA gymnastic team copped the state crown last week and won in 5 different categories, so they're very excited. So all that's been put out to the people and the organizations marching.
Terry?
Yeah.
I have one question. Did you, when you talked to all these people, did you also mention about the animals not being allowed? Because last year we did have the problem with somebody who came with an animal and really wanted to march.
That will be in the do be and don't be list that goes out in
Okay.
another 2 weeks. The one I'm waiting for the state highway department to ensure that the drainage ditch underneath the railway overpass gets pumped out the week before, because if we get deluge rain like we did 3 years ago, we don't want to flood under the railway bridge. I am going to be looking for volunteers to help Sunday morning, 8:30, down at Good Wives for the Line of March. I'll also be looking...
Monday morning.
Monday.
Sorry, Monday morning. I'll be looking for volunteers Sunday
Afternoon,
evening
yeah,
to help
evening.
put up the signs.
Right.
And looking for volunteers at the end of the parade at the ceremony in the cemetery. We're going to have to look at the inventory downstairs to make sure we have appropriate number of signs.
Okay, I had a number 1 sign that Phil left me, that he found in his office, so there's an additional number 1. I also have the large zip ties, 14 to 14-inch ones, okay, I have those.
We need
So-
larger than 14.
I think
You
they're-
double 'em.
They might
Yeah.
be, I think we
Yeah.
put 2 together and we
Yeah.
wrapped them around.
Yeah.
As big as I can find. So I have plenty of those. I have enough zip ties to put all the banners on the platform. So can I jump in or do you have?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Well, I got a couple of things,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
go
while
ahead.
you're on that with the zip ties, my understanding is that anything that I have to spend up to $100, I can spend without authorization. Because if we need more zip ties, for example, which I suspect we will.
You may. Okay, you have to check my inventory because I have a
Yeah.
bunch of them. All right.
And then the other issue
Yeah.
is, how many parade official hats do we need?
How many do we have?
How many still have theirs from last year?
No, we turned them all
We
in.
They've
did.
turned in, they're all downstairs. You
All
have to check,
turned them in.
you got to check inventory, all right,
Okay.
because they're all downstairs.
All right. The last thing I have here is Deus invitees.
Right.
So what I have on my hit list are the 5 selectmen from town,
Okay,
the 3 fire chiefs,
right?
the fire marshal,
Mm-hmm,
post 53 chair,
right.
dairy and police chief. We've invited 7 state officials, both local and US. So far, we have 2 yeses and 1 no's.
Okay.
We have 2 acknowledgements and 3 yet to be heard from. The speaker, the master of ceremonies, the scouts that are going to be reading, and then space permitting, however many monuments and ceremonies.
Right, and I've invited, last year I invited monuments and ceremonies people, commission to come up and sit with us. So it's just a question of adding more chairs. You know, if some people may not want to go up and sit up there, but you're being invited officially now to sit up there. We need probably, I would say, 25 to 30 chairs.
Yeah. Is there anybody that I'm missing that?
Yes, you're missing Pat Parker.
She's the Grand Marshal.
Grand
You didn't
Marshal.
mention, oh, did you mention her?
Grand Marshal.
Yeah, have her.
That's one question I have.
And the
Is
speaker.
Meredith asked if there, do we have a banner for her car?
Yeah, someplace.
Yes.
Okay,
No, we
so,
don't.
we don't?
I don't
I
know.
thought we
Yeah,
did.
there's
We
a
have a
sign.
There's
banner?
something downstairs.
There's a sign.
We have to check. We have to check inventory this,
Okay.
sooner than later. All right,
Do we have a
sooner than later.
sign, do we have a
But we have
banner?
the sashes. The sashes are the sashes downstairs in the
That's what I was
rosette.
wondering.
That just has to be
Like
assembled.
red,
That's
white,
all
and
done.
blue
It
on the
says
Jeep.
Grand Marshal on it.
Right.
So that's
Is it a
downstairs. I
convertible
know
Jeep?
that.
Yep.
And Terry, the essay readers?
Yeah.
Well, the essay reader is
Do they
not
just
on the
come up?
dais. They're,
Okay.
they're called up, yeah.
Right.
So, just to jump in with some of the stuff that I know about, we did get an email today from Erstad Biddle, so we're okay to, going to be, they just have to finalize it, we're gonna be okay to go be in Good Wives, because you have to ask permission and stuff. All the other insurance forms have been filed for all the other places. Park and Rec has been notified, Pam Geary and her group, Jim Flynn's already on that to put the platform in and put the viewing stand up. The Boy Scouts have already indicated who their children are going to be. They're going to be, I already have the names of the person who's going to read General Logan's order, and I also have the names of the boys who are going to be standing sentinel by the flags. I need the Girl Scouts. I need a Gettysburg Address person, and I need a girl to stand,
get you the
to be at the
names.
reviewing stand.
And,
Okay,
and we
yeah.
also have actually more Boy Scouts who are coming. I mean, I was very surprised with the overwhelming response that I got back, and they said, can we have just one standing up there with the color guard? I said, sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
We'll, as long as we can spell each other off and nobody collapses. Seen that happen.
It's a program.
Yes.
Who's
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm already adding to it and stuff and everything else. If I run into trouble, you got to be the first one I scream to.
All right, because I've got to set up the template.
Right.
Well, yes, I
We've
was
got the
pretty
template
sure
set.
I was gonna wear
That's
clothes
good.
that day.
We have,
you did.
we just finished this out, guys.
Or family mine.
We have a chaplain to do the invocation and the benediction. We're squared away on that. We're squared away on everything that.
Chaplain.
Yeah.
Can I put him in?
Right. Should
Oh, there should be a-
Reverend Cirillo, or Monsignor Cirillo will be doing that
You got the
again.
tutor singers?
Okay, you
Huh?
have a female next year.
Is Andre
Two.
bringing the tutor singers?
Chris Andrade has already, told me he's going to bring his speaker system, he's bringing the tutor singers. I've already asked Jonathan Grauer at the high school for a bugler. Our bugler, who we used to have for many, many years, Anthony Montemuro, has moved to North Carolina. It's going to be tough for him to do it from there. So although he says he's going to miss it.
Big wind.
So they're going to. So I asked the high school band if they would get 1 or 2 buglers. They have 2. Sometimes they do echo taps and stuff. It's pretty neat. But we'll see what happens. So they've been notified. We're pretty much way ahead of the game, for where we have been before. Things that we need to do at the end. We need to meet in the cemetery that morning to put the bunting up. That's always a deal. So we have to go down and, look at the inventory that we have. I told Alan. Alan brought a bunch of flags in today, probably another dozen flags in today that he had gotten from the Boy Scouts. I have approximately 100 brand new ones, okay, that I was given. So I have them to add to our group downstairs. Everything is in the room downstairs. So the bunting's downstairs, the stuff for the Grand Marshal is downstairs, all the big plastic numbers are downstairs. There may even be some zip ties and such downstairs and stuff, but I pulled out from a box at my house the whole pile of them, and they're long like this, so I said, I know those aren't, there's not going to be tie my motor up here, and all that, but they're really do that. Now, the flags over the overpass at exit 10, and also the flags over the overpass just past Trader Joe's, past Rory's there. Normally we do the ones at exit 10. Lately we've been doing the ones up above. I ordered flags. We have the flags. We ordered them from a place called Flags USA. It was a pretty decent price, and they came right away. So I'm not going to put those up for about 2 weeks, because we're going to have some inclement weather in the next couple of weeks and stuff. I want to let it go until the first week of May rather, and then we'll put the 2 up on the overpass, and then we'll put the 2 up by Trader Joe's, and that boxes the town from end to end, and they'll be brand new. We also have new ones that can go down at the train station if we so need to do them. We'll have to go down and inspect those to make sure that the 2 down at the train station around the rock are okay also. We always do those. The other thing we're going to do, we have to think about, and not right away, but June 14th is Flag Day, and we will be doing Flag Day this year. It does occur on a Sunday. We will be doing it anyway. All right, so that's something that's going to, have to be in the back of your mind, but that's in the future. Just to mention real quickly, the display case is filled until February of 2020. You guys have January of 2020 for that, all right?
Jamie got it for you.
Yeah, she got it for her. She asked for it and I gave it to her. She was smart enough to do that. It was great. So the display case, we have people in it until February of 2020. The news article asking for updated contact information went out nicely.
Yeah.
Came out and a lot of people responded. I'm glad that they did. Thank you very much, Terry. The program for the cemetery, we'll get that out between the 2 of us. 3 of us or whatever, we'll get that worked in. I'll put all the names in as I go down on the template. If I don't like what it looks like, we'll talk about it and we'll make it's only a 1-sheet thing with the stuff on the back.
David, I have a question. About the speaker for the
Right.
cemetery. Does he have is there anything that you would like him to speak about, and is there any time frame for him? Like 10 minutes, whatever?
I think that, if you haven't read his book, he wrote the book about the veterans who served in Vietnam, some of whom came back and some of them didn't, from Stanford and stuff. He wrote it with his father, Tony Pavia, and Matt Pavia. I think if he brings, his perspective on dealing with the veterans and stuff and dealing with the losses that they had and everything else, I think that would be a good talk.
Okay.
I mean, I think just based on his book,
Yeah.
What he did.
I'm sure he has a pretty good idea.
And tie in the whole Memorial Day theme.
Right.
We're remembering these people. He spoke to a lot of guys who are extant, who are living, and he spoke to quite a few people who could tell you about all their friends who didn't come back.
And what about a time frame?
That it's usually 10 minutes tops. I would imagine 10, 15 minutes, something like that.
How long is the speech that they give?
Yeah, that's what I
15?
Yeah.
Tops?
About
10,
that.
I would imagine,
So 10, 15?
Yeah.
I would say if he were to look at, a 10 or 15 minute thing, if he goes over, nobody's going to complain.
Okay.
All right?
10 minutes is a long time.
10 minutes is long. I think 10 minutes is a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Trust me.
Shall I say 10 minutes?
having been there.
Especially if it's hot.
Terry, is there anything else?
I'll say 10 minutes.
Any other help? So Terry needs help on Sunday afternoon prior to Memorial Day. It's the 26th. because that's when you go into the parking lot and you put up these big numbers so that all the groups line up correctly. I've already spoken to Alan Gray. Alan Gray has graciously agreed to open up the library and have the room ready for us should there be torrential rain outside, pouring rain. We always try to do our ceremony in the cemetery. If we can't, then he gives us this opportunity, which is fantastic. Alan is I was going to say an ex, but there's no such thing as an ex. He is a Marine, and he supports us fully, gave his assent immediately. So he's already been contacted, so we're all squared away on that. I can't think of too much else that we had.
The one thing I forgot, the town did receive a letter from a concerned citizen about a drone use last year.
About
A
what?
drone that was used last year.
Oh, there was
from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
There was, unbeknownst to us, there was a drone that was approved by the police department last year for one of the fire departments. I checked into all of the official regulations and what transpired because I want to make sure that when a safety issue was raised that it's addressed. The FAA regulations for drone mandate that a drone cannot go any higher than 400 feet, and the minimum on any flyover is 500 feet. So first of all, there's no chance of a drone and an airplane intersecting.
That's good.
There are issues about, when I read the FAA regulations, about drones being used above individuals.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation that we have to have with Captain Anderson.
I think we should talk about that at our next meeting.
And by the way, the drone was not used by the organization that films the parade. It was contracted
I just think, I think that'll be on top of my list for the next meeting because I really think that, suppose there's 2 or 3 people that want to do this, okay?
Right.
And then you've got these things intersecting and stuff at different frequencies and all this such.
So that's a meeting with the police.
Yeah, that's going to have to be spoken to.
Did they get permission to do
The
it?
selectmen also.
They got permission from the police department last year, but the town officials and this commission didn't know it, so it was...
Right. I think that should be brought up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a conversation in the next month with the powers that be.
Well, I've already spoken with
Okay.
Don about it, and, but we'll make sure it gets ironed out.
Then I won't tread in that area, I'll let you handle that.
I will order
Parade
the,
is your responsibility.
I will order the wreath. I always do.
Yes, and Karen will order the wreath from
Spring Grove.
Springdale
Springdale.
Florists. Okay, and the
Spring
state
Grove.
always sends one
To go.
also.
Yeah, some
State
do.
also always sends one down also. And I am going to call the VA just to see if they can give me some kind of window as to when they're going to put their flags in, so that we know, so we can coordinate our efforts to put the flags in the public part of the cemetery.
Scouts.
And also, we're going to give them a little encouragement to make sure they have the grass cut and everything else, and it all spruced up nice. They usually do a pretty good job. They usually come down. We're complaining about it. The next thing you know is somebody drives by and it's been done, and we're like, oh, okay. They know. This isn't their first rodeo. They've done it before. They've got 3 big cemeteries to worry about. The 2 up in Rocky Hill and then this one here. So, is there anything else coming before the group at this time?
I just have a quick question on Flag Day. I have a quick question on Flag Day. Flag Day.
On Flag Day?
When we turn in flags.
Yes.
But I have a whole bunch of flags like what Alan brought in that we
Right.
have been using in the cemeteries, but are broken now and
Yes,
damaged.
those can be all brought in to, and I believe that Terry Wood will probably initiate just prior to that, a collection for those. I have one here, but that Alan took off the overpass for me because it was old and getting flopped around. And I have a bunch of them at home also, and when that time comes, we'll get them to the central collection place, and then they're disposed of properly.
You can bring them in to the VFW at any time,
Right.
but if they're
Like
not
those
taking,
stick ones.
if they're not taking up a lot of space, I think it's nice as part of the ceremony on Flag
To
Day
bring
that
'em in.
people actually bring them that day
Yeah.
to retire them. I think
I
it
like
just
that.
adds a little something.
Yeah, because there is a part of the program that says retire these flags and such. We take down an old flag, put up a new flag, Okay, then we retire that flag and the other ones, and then people hand in the ones they have. I have a bag.
But these are
full.
like the stick ones, though.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
Should I
Okay,
take
that's
them
no
off the
problem.
stick?
No, don't worry. Don't worry about that. When they go to, when we take care of them, the people that do the actual
Okay.
disposal will do that. Anything else?
Yes, I
Yes.
have one thing. I have down that we were going to introduce our new member and welcome her.
Yeah,
And
we have a new member. Her name is Loren Gomez. It's Loren, but my understanding is it's pronounced Loren. And so Loren Gomez is our new member. She was vetted and voted on by the selectmen, and so she is a member. So we do have another member.
And I sent her the minutes and the
hopefully she'll be
agenda
here at our
and the-
next meeting, and then we'll all be,
everything.
we'll all meet her, all right? I did have
Yes.
that down to introduce her, but she didn't come. Sharon Kells has joined us in the end. Tracy can fill you in on what I'm trying to do.
be with all of you.
I'm happy.
We're happy to have you,
here.
Sharon.
All right,
Karen's nice.
and
Thank you.
is there anything else? If not, I will entertain a Caravillo.
Move we adjourn?
Move to
I
adjourn.
second it.
Second by Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
April,
you.
May 14th, next meeting, actually.